We're back with the great Trey Wallace. Trey, senior reporter for Outkick. You were on here recently, but as we were talking off air, there's quite the shit show going on. So I said, hey, we got to get Trey back on the line. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just keeping the phone on charge. I need a bat phone, and which I do have a bat phone. I just never turned on my company phone. They're probably like, why has he never turned on his company phone? Because I don't want to hear from y'all 18 times a day. But no, man, it's like a never-ending cycle of things, dude. Like it just, we had NCAA stuff before the season and everything. We thought we were busy then, Brett, but now, brother, like this is they're taking the cake.
Right. And yeah, could you have ever imagined we would get to this point? Because, I know about a week or really since the Florida job opened, there was a lot of talk. Well, yeah, I'm sure they want Kiffin. Kiffin's one option A, B, and C, but the timing, it just doesn't make sense. And now that may be all blown up in our faces. And this, we may literally have the first coach that leaves a playoff team. Not only, it'd be one thing if it was a G5, that'd be bad enough, but Ole Miss could legitimately win the national championship, but their coach may not stick around to find out.
The interesting part about it all is that I think Florida and LSU both think that they have him, and then Ole Miss is sitting around like, okay, well, we're not technically giving up on this fight yet. He could end up staying here in Oxford. So it's like three teams they're out there that think that they're going to land this guy. And I'm sitting here like, okay, well, tough decision to make here. Because I really don't. Lane Kiffin is not leaving Oxford without coaching a playoff game unless he is dragged out of town with handcuffs and thrown in the back of like a mental health fan. He ain't leaving. And I think judging by that PR stunt that was the Pat McAfee appearance on Tuesday, which I don't know about you, Mike, but we've all been around Lane Kiffin for a long time. Like we know how he talks. We know how he talks in interviews and press conference settings. I've never seen anything like that before. Like the way he was talking, he was almost as if he was being a smartass. And I don't mean that in like a mean way towards Lane. I've never heard him speak like that before. Where he's hotty-toddy and look at everything we have going here. And by the way, look at my running back over here and come into the pic. It was just awkward. And so, in talking with folks down in Baton Rouge, Gainesville, and in Oxford, they all thought, it was kind of a PR thing to kind of quiet things down a little bit. I don't think it worked.
Right. And I mean, I think the best way to, and you basically laid this out, but it was performative. That's what it was. It was, and as I understand it, Trey, it was tape delayed.
Yep. Pre-recorded.
And I don't know. Well, I don't think we'll ever know, but I would imagine the questions were given in advance, or at least, don't ask about the planes. Because how you could not do that. And again, I'm not here to criticize Pat McAfee. He's in our space. He's the most successful. And, everything could go right for me, and I'll still never be as successful as that guy. But
great guy. Yeah.
What the hell? I mean, we're just going to – I just thought that was awful all the way around. If I had that platform and I had these people on, I mean, I would ask them – he didn't even really ask them about Ole Miss or the playoff or, make your case for getting in the play. I mean, it's just – the whole thing was asinine, I thought.
The whole thing was, hey, I want to get on here and say the word ultimatum is not the word that needs to be thrown around. That's the only thing that interview was for, period. And by the way, it's not really an ultimatum by Ole Miss. It's, hey, man, we'd like to know your plans by this date. So, saying it's an ultimatum, hey, if you tell us you're gone, you're suspended with pay. You know what I mean? It's not that type of situation. Now, yes, I think we both agree Ole Miss is going to have to make a decision. And I mean that if Lane says, yeah, probably going to end up taking that other job or whatnot, Ole Miss got to be like, all right, man, we can't have this conversation for, first off, 19 days leading into the first round of the CFP. But if Ole Miss sneaks in the top four, it would be a full month of this conversation. So imagine what we're doing right now on steroids for 31 days. Like they just, that reasonably, that can't happen because the whole conversation would be about Lane Kiffin and not the football team on the field.
Yeah, and I could ask you, I'm sure you've been asked this, you'll probably continue to be asked this, what will Lane Kiffin do? To me, that's kind of a stupid question because I don't think Lane Kiffin knows what he's going to do, so we could just sit here and guess. But
Yeah.
what is the best case scenario for Ole Miss here? I mean, I don't even know if at this point if it's Lane Kiffin staying, and I mean for next season. But
Yeah.
what is the best case scenario? I mean, could we? Because this is all so weird, Trey. And I pondered this on our show last night. Have you fathomed at all? Lane Kiffin says, "All right, I really want to stay for the playoff run," and then Ole Miss says, "Okay, but we're going to hire John Summerall," and they have John Summerall and Lane Kiffin. I mean, could something like that conceivably happen?
Who would be coaching each other potentially in a first round game? Can you imagine Tulane traveling to Oxford for a first round game and those two are coaching, but knowing that both coaches are going to be on opposing teams the next season? Like this has soap opera written all over it, and I love it. By the way, it's fun. It's not fun for the local B guys. I feel for them in Oxford that are having to deal with this nonsense on a daily basis. But I want to make this clear: there are only 3 people out there that know what Lane Kiffin's going to do. 1 is Lane Kiffin. 2 is the mother of his children. 3, Jimmy Sexton. That's it. If anybody out there is saying, well, you know what, Lane Kiffin's going to do this, you have no idea. Now, I think that he has told people in Gainesville and Baton Rouge and Oxford, yeah, think about probably staying around, or probably going to that school or that school or that school. But nobody knows. And that's how Lane Kiffin wants it. That's why I get to that performative act that was put on Tuesday. So there is a scenario, this is just me speaking personally here, where I could see him on the sidelines for the playoff run, but knowing that he's gone after, and a lot of people would have to suck up some pride in that situation, knowing that, okay, we're going to go hire another coach. We're going to get that done. You can coach out the playoffs, and then you're gone. But then the other thing about that is, too, let's just be real honest here, LSU or Florida or whoever, or the NFL team, whatever, they'd have to be down with that, too. And so that's what makes – and I don't think it would be a stretch for Florida if he were to agree to be the coach of Florida or LSU. I don't think it would be a stretch to say, okay, I think they would be fine as long as there's a contract signed, he's good to go and can't back out of it. So, that's a possibility. And then the other possibility is we get to Saturday or Friday after the Egg Bowl next week, and they're having to hold a press conference because Lane is potentially moving on. Like, he doesn't want to leave during this run, and he obviously, I don't think he wants it to be a distraction for his players. But let me just inform everybody out there something, and I think you already know this. That airplane in Baton Rouge and that report about him being in Gainesville doesn't get out without Lane Kiffin approving it first. Period. Like, straight up. Like, LSU had a jet 30 feet from the fence at the airport. Like, what do you think is going to happen? So, like, this is all, I don't want to say Lane Kiffin is sitting there playing chess, but he is certainly sitting at the table. And I think that that's what makes this whole thing kind of interesting because, by the way, everybody, Layla Kiffin doesn't need to go to Gainesville to search around the neighborhood. She knows it better than the tour guide that was touring her around the city. Sorry, I mean, I'm just being honest here. She knows the best yoga spots, restaurants, coffee shops, bookstores, everything in Gainesville more than the people at the school. So I'm just saying, like, if you read through it a little bit and look through it, like, it's just for show, period, in my opinion.
And, there's so much, for good reason, there's so much focus on Ole Miss and how long they can kind of do this dance. But how long conceivably can LSU and Florida, who like you said, there's people up both sides think they're getting Lane Kiffin. How long can they sit on their hands while the coaching search goes on? I mean, I wouldn't think either one is in any kind of position to give an ultimatum. But how long can Florida and LSU conceivably wait this out?
You know what the tell's going to be? The tell's going to be when the other team goes and hires a coach. And then it's like the other team just sitting out there like, yeah, nothing's going on. We're still searching for a coach. What do you mean Lane Kiffin might leave Ole Miss? Like that's going to be the tell is when the other school. And by the way, the other schools are still like interviewing candidates, and just like Ole Miss right now is doing their due diligence, I'm told, on potentially who would come in after Lane Kiffin if that were to happen. So, I in talking with folks, I think again, I'll say it again. Like I think LSU would be in Florida would be fine if he commits to one of those schools and signs something, or you do a real quiet handshake agreement with like Scott. I'll just throw Scott Strickland out for an example, and it's like, hey, look, this can't get out. This is between me and you, and if it gets out, I ain't coming. Sorry, that type of situation. Could I see that playing out? I don't know, maybe, but we've gotten to a point now where just about anything can happen, in my opinion, and that is too, including him staying in Oxford.
Yeah,
which that he, buddy, he would love, and this is in the back of his mind. All this talk about leaving Ole Miss, and then he's going to announce that he stays, and they're having parties in the Velvet Ditch about Lane Kiffin remaining there, like the heroes welcome. We're acting like he ever left. He's never left. But I'm just saying, like, he knows how to play his cards here. Like, he might be a new man, but he's the same Lane Kiffin in some aspects.
right. And then, do you have any information, or if not, do you buy the report? I believe it's from Glenn Gilbo of Tiger Rag that he is. I don't know how close he is to Saban, but I know he's close to people that are very close to Saban, and he is reporting that Saban is kind of encouraging Kiffin to take the LSU job, and the fact that Saban is getting paid by Alabama. I mean, this is
so. Michael, how would Alabama feel if they were paying Nick Saban $48,000 a month to be an ambassador for the program, but at the same time, he's trying to place the next LSU coach, and that might happen to be Lane Kiffin? I think Alabama folks would be a little agitated by that. So, do I think Nick Saban maybe picked up the phone and said, hey, that'd probably be a good spot for you? Okay, like, sure. But I don't think Nick Saban is on a coaching committee, and I'm not saying that was reported. I'm just saying in general. I don't think Nick Saban's on a coaching committee talking about, this is why Lane Kiffin needs to be hired. By the way, let me see if that wire transfer came in from the University of Alabama real quick. Oh, yeah, I got paid this month. Okay, we're good. So, like, I don't know about that report. I would just, if I'm Greg Byrne, I'd be sitting around like, wait a minute, you were in our box this past weekend, but at the same time you're directing LSU and Verge Osbury, who he has a relationship with. But I don't know. I could a phone call be made? Sure, but I don't think Nick Saban's trying to place the next head coach at LSU.
And then, as hot as this whole situation is, Trey, we could napalm it even further if Alabama job opens, if Texas job opens. Now, and I don't believe either one truly will, but hey, Texas gets destroyed by A&M. We may have a conversation. Alabama misses the playoff for the second time in 2 years under Kalen DeBoer. I don't think they're firing him, but he could leave for a Penn State or
Penn State,
a Southern Cal if it were to open. Who knows? But could that complicate this whole Kiffin mess?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Texas is the job, right? I mean, we're gauging if Alabama were to open, but I'll just be honest with you. Like, I don't know how much it would shock me if Kalen DeBoer left for Penn State. I'm not reporting anything, so folks don't go crazy on social media. We're talking hypotheticals here. Like, it wouldn't be some massive shock, just as much as it wouldn't be a shock if Lincoln Riley dips out on USC or Texas has an opening within the next year. So we have to play hypotheticals every now and then, and I think that um, they've figured out Steve Sarkisian at Texas, and if he doesn't go out and hire himself an offensive coordinator, it's not going to get any better. I sat there and watched Texas on Saturday night in Athens, and that is just predictable. So that whole offense it's either a slant across the middle, it's either a bubble screen, or I'm hitting Ryan Wingo down the field. That's it. That's their offense now. So I guess rounding that part up, I think that could there be a situation where Steve Sarkisian's looking around? There's a reason why there's some stuff flowing around about Texas right now. Best way to put it.
Right. And then for Alabama, again, let's go back to that real quick. Again, I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer's leaving. I think
No.
Alabama, that's arguably the best job in the country. He's got the resources. He legitimately could win it all.
Yes.
But missing the playoff 2 years in a row, that's not going to go over well. But here's where I also want to go with that, Trey, because I'm just kind of curious if you're hearing the same things, that Arkansas is eyeing defensive coordinator Kane Womack to possibly be the next head coach of the Razorbacks. And then it's an open secret that if Jed Fish were to leave Washington, perhaps for Florida, if they miss on Kiffin, that they're going to hire Ryan Grubb. So DeBoer could be going into year 3 with a completely new coordinator staff. Again, it's just it makes that situation not untenable, but it's make or break year with 2 new coordinators. That's a tough position to be in.
You're restarting. You're restarting in year 3. And let's be honest, like I know offensive coordinators, shuffled through the door at Alabama under Saban like a bingo hall, but at the same time, Kalen DeBoer without his OC and his DC within 3 years of taking the job, 2 years, really. I mean, so yeah, and I have heard the Kane Womack, former South Alabama coach, by the way. Thanks for leaving my Jags up, and we had to hire freaking Major Applewhite. So appreciate that, Kane Womack. And then Jeb Fish's comments from a couple of weeks ago where he's talking about being on list and all that stuff. Well, okay, like if Florida comes calling, you gonna complain about that? I don't think so. And then Eli's over here. God bless Eli. I love Eli Drinkwitz. But he's even talking about why he's on these, and I'm not going anywhere. And it's like, Penn State offers you 12.5.
Well, actually, Trey, I'll correct you. He didn't say I'm not going. He said, let me address all the speculation. He's like, it's a distraction. I love it here. But he never said, I'm coming back. I'm staying. He never said it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. Like, it's fascinating to see these guys dance around it. It's like, you're doing the Texas 2-step around all these questions without literally pulling a Kenny Dillingham and saying, yeah, why would I leave? I have no reason to leave. Like, I'm going to stay at Arizona State. Like, credit to Kenny Dillingham for saying something like that. But I also look at the whole thing, and we're just getting started here. Like, we could see more dominoes fall. We are going to see more dominoes fall. But I'm saying it could come at Washington. It could come where Alabama's got to make some different difficult calls when it comes to DC OC spot. I mean, like, and if Eli were to get a job or something like that, like, what I'm trying to hint at to folks without trying to give away a lot of things is, like, this thing is, you thought the Lane Kiffin stuff was interesting. Like, I'm just saying, like, there could be some more stuff coming down the pike here that I don't think it would shock folks, because I don't know how much more can shock college football fans anymore. But it would add to the drama that we're already seeing.
Mm-hmm. And so now, lost in all the shuffle, it's funny how this all, one job opens and then there's all these dominoes. What's the latest with Auburn? Is it John Summerall or bust, or could someone like an Eli Drinkwitz or perhaps another candidate land on the plains?
Auburn is praying that Lane Kiffin stays in Oxford, because then it would be Ole Miss going out. I've been told Summerall fits better at Auburn. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. He has more ties to the area. Like, I get it. But you might have to get into a battle with the Rebels. And I'm very curious to see where John Summerall would prefer. So I don't think Auburn's going to get a decision anytime soon. And when I say anytime soon, I'm talking about like the next 5, 6 days, 7 days after the regular season ends, because there could be an opening in Oxford. So, like, what are we doing here? Type of thing. So yeah, I think, just my personal opinion, I think John Summerall would have more success at Auburn than he would at Ole Miss, just because of the dynamics around him and that job in the state of Alabama.
Yeah, and it's already been a wild carousel. I don't know that this job could open, but we spoke recently, and you said, "Hey, keep your eye on Columbia, South Carolina," and then a 27-point lead was blown. What's the latest there for Shane Beamer at South Carolina?
He's going to get a year. He's going to be able to go out and hire an OC, in my opinion. Now, I say all this to say this: just don't go get beat by Clemson by 17, 20 points, which I don't think so, because South Carolina, like, even that game against Texas A&M, you've seen this team forget about the record and just go out and play football. And I give a lot of credit to them. And I know how the second half went for Beamer and them. That's not lost on me. But you still went into College Station with the record that you had and the season that you had, and you took it to A&M in the first half. The second half, the dam just broke, and you really just couldn't stop it. So and there were still plays in the second half where they could have scored potentially. They got inside the 35-yard line. So what I'm getting at is, I think Shane will get his year. My biggest concern for South Carolina would be, you're about to have a massive run on your roster, a massive run. People are going to be offering a very, very large sum of money for a number of players. And South Carolina has got to be prepared to either match it or be content with letting some of these guys walk. And that is what, to me, is going to be fascinating about the upcoming season, or next season, per se.
Well,
he's already guaranteed a CFP conversation next year. I mean, essentially, he pulled a Brian Kelly. You remember Brian Kelly last year before, I think it was the bowl, or after the Oklahoma game, he was like, we're going to be in the playoff next year. And then all of a sudden he's fired, 7 games, 8 games.
The record is what it is, but the opportunity to go compete, that hasn't changed and won't. And also understanding, too, that we're all sick and we don't want to feel this feeling again. And I realized that 1 year ago, Rick, we were sitting here tonight getting ready to play Wofford, and we're all dialed into the playoff rankings to see where we're ranked, and we're not there right now, but I do know next year at this time we're going to be sitting here next year on this Tuesday night watching the playoff rankings to see where we are in the rankings show, and we're going to be firmly in the mix for a college football playoff berth next year at this time. And we're all sick about this feeling, but we're not going to go through this thing again, and we're going to go finish this season out the right way, send these guys out the right way, and then the minute that thing hits zero on the clock after the Thanksgiving Day game or Thanksgiving weekend game, we're full speed ahead on 2026.
Whoops. Well, hey, speaking of offensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino, I assume at this point he's not getting the Arkansas job. I don't think he should have got it ever, but at least not again. But do you think he stays around the conference as an offensive coordinator? Because I think South Carolina, Texas, I mean, a lot of these, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator.
I think he is good enough to be an OC at an SEC school. I do. Curious to see where that go. You know who could really use an offensive coordinator? Yeah, that would be Tennessee. But I'm not trying to float that one out there. I'm just saying in general, like, they need to figure some things out over there. Yeah, I could see him. Steve Sarkisian's going to have to make a move. He's going to have to hire an OC. And so, where could he land? I don't know. But I do think that he doesn't need to be a head coach in the SEC, but he can damn sure be an OC.
Well, hey, speaking of Tennessee, I had to ask you about this. Tennessee at Florida. You know both these teams very well. What's on the line for Heupel and the Vols this week in Gainesville?
Well, we know who the biggest Tennessee fans are this weekend. That's the Vanderbilt Commodores. Vanderbilt needs Tennessee to win this weekend. I mean, if they could sneak some defensive players on that Tennessee roster, they would go into Gainesville because it's huge for Vanderbilt trying to make the playoff. But Tennessee would have to exercise some demons to finally beat Florida in the swamp. And I said this about South Carolina. I'll say this about Florida. Like, Florida came off a horrible loss to Kentucky, and then they turn around and they go play. I thought they played pretty damn well in Oxford. And maybe that's because some of the Florida players were trying out for their potential future head coach on the other sideline. But at the same time, I think, Florida is another team. They'll be jacked up for Saturday night, and Tennessee's defense got to figure out a way to stop a downfield threat. So Tennessee should win the football game, in my opinion. But again, I think Florida's going to come out and play like a national title contender on Saturday night, and this game goes 4 quarters. I am picking Tennessee to beat Florida on Saturday night. I think that they got rid of the Jeremy Banks situation that's been plaguing their locker room for the last 4.5 months, and that's a Boo Carter. They shouldn't have let him back to begin with when he was trying to enroll at another school and see if he would have eligibility this year. But Josh Heupel gave him a second chance. That's fine. You spent a lot of NIL money on something that didn't work out. You live and you learn. But I do think that now that the distraction is gone, I'm not saying the defense is about to come out here and play, because we all saw what happened in 2022. But I think Tennessee wins Saturday night. I think it's a close game. And if not, it's going to be a very long offseason for Josh Heupel, because I think Vanderbilt comes in and would beat up on a wounded animal, which was Tennessee.
That would be very telling, though, wouldn't it, Trey, if Tennessee's defense just reverted to last year's form, just with no Boo Carter?
I'm telling you, like, even though Boo Carter is not like stepping on the field and all that, and he wanted to blame it on a hip flexor and all that good stuff, and good luck to the young man. I'm not trying to talk bad about a young man. Good luck to wherever he goes next. That's fine, Colorado. But at the same time, this was 4 months overdue.
Right.
So, we'll see what Tennessee does. Like, they had the opportunity to go down there and win a big game. They're not making the playoff. Don't think you're making the playoff. But at the same time, there's a possibility they go win. So,
well, I obviously love all this coaching drama and all this, so I appreciate you. But it should not overshadow the games. That's my only regret of this. And next week, Thanksgiving, the best week literally of, I think, in the calendar all year. We got all these rivalry games, and we got as many as 6 games in the Southeastern Conference, Trey, next week that have playoff implications. Which one or two of these games next week, rivalry weekend, are you most excited about?
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to go next week. Like, I'm being honest with you. Like, is it Ohio State, Michigan for me? I don't know. I'll see. But I think, look, if the storyline keeps playing out and you keep that schedule up, because I think I would go Starkville on Thanksgiving Day at lunchtime, and then drive over to Atlanta for Georgia versus Georgia Tech. And then Saturday in my weekend in Knoxville, seeing Vanderbilt potentially play for a CFP spot against Tennessee. I think I would have my 3 days set up.
Man,
I would have gone to Texas A&M if Texas didn't get their ass whipped by Georgia last weekend. Like, I can't go watch that again. I can't go watch that offense again. I went down to Athens last week, and that offense was putrid. I can't do it again. I'm sorry. Like, I get the rivalry. This is going to be a fun game, but I'm expecting like 10 points out of Texas. That just doesn't do it for me. So, I don't know. It could be Starkville.
Well, whatever you do, Trey,
Atlanta.
Don't call it a disappointing season for old Texas.
No.
We're going to have to change Texas 8-4. That resides in Austin now.
Well, excuse me. I mean, I was the one that said they had 3 losses this year. So just want to point that out.
All right, Trey. Thank you so much. I know you're a busy man always, and especially this week. Before you go, can you tell my audience how to follow you and how to find your work?
Yeah, follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Trey Wallace _. Follow me on IG, same one, and follow all my work at Outkick.com. We'll keep you updated on the latest shenanigans going around the sport, and maybe I'll pop up in Oxford in the next couple of days. We'll see.
Ooh, what a teaser.